DC versus Vampires All Out War Issue 1, Matthew Rosenberg and Alex Packnadel, writing with Guillaume Singelin on the art, and I apologize if I was butchering some names there, especially the artist.
That's not the name on the front cover. Oh, that's the backup.
That's me looking at the wrong name when I was getting off a League of Comics. Who's the regular artist?
I'm just trying to find the credits page because I don't have the credits page is buried at the back typically.
Of course it is.
The regular artist is Pascal Colano.
Okay, Pascal. There you go. Yeah, so this is the 6-issue miniseries. It's going to run alongside the back half of the main series of DC versus Vampires. So we had a couple of one-shots that were tied in. One was all right. The one with Harley, me and Matt were very, very lukewarm to mixed on. We weren't super hot on it.
Yeah, I think I gave that. It was fine.
It's like there was one like important plot detail by the end, but the rest of it felt just kind of fluffy. And
yeah, I think it wasn't terrible, but I also didn't love that one. It was okay.
Yeah, so it was very interesting to see what this was going to be going. Obviously, you see Deathstroke front and center on the cover, and a bunch of. Oh no, it's actually I was going to say mostly villains. It's actually 50-50, but it's an interesting mix of characters. You got Azrael, Booster Gold, Mary Marvel, Deadman, and Bane. So you've got like a real hodgepodge of characters. And Constantine, yeah. So this is black and white with red highlights, basically, as the art style,
which is interesting.
I think this is a perfectly valid art style, but you have to actually like draw to facilitate that that's what it's going to be in the end, if that makes sense. The same way that when you're shooting a black and white movie, you light the scenes a bit differently because you know it's black and white.
I think it mostly did. I think the problem is they actually overuse the red, so it kind of your eye gets drawn to too much red, and it kind of you lose some of the other details.
Because I did not enjoy the art in this, and it's not because the line work is bad, it's that I think it's missing. Like, I think there's just too much going on in some of the panels. There's too many lines, there's too many details, that a lot of it just, like, I have to really sort of focus and really look for what the image is. It doesn't just stick out to me. And I think it's one of those things where it feels to me like it was drawn as if it was going to be coloured like a regular comic book. Because if this was coloured, I feel like it would just work like any comic art would work. But because it's not, there's a lot of palette, especially when fights start happening, where I was just like, I was having to really like, okay, what is this panel? What's happening? I had to really think about it like a lot. And it really ruined the flow for me. It made it a very disjointed reading experience.
I wonder if maybe they didn't tell the artist straight away that was going to be the case.
Oh yeah, when he was drawing the pencils, he didn't actually know.
Because I know they solicited it, obviously, as normal, and then a few weeks later, maybe a month, I don't know if it was a full month later, they kind of put out an update saying it would be black and white, kind of making it clear. I imagine part of that was to make it clearer to retailers, I imagine, but I don't know if maybe they hadn't decided that until they kind of put that announcement out.
Maybe. Because I think one of the things is, and it's not so much, because I would actually say the line works better in the main story, but I actually think I preferred the art in the backup more, because the art in the backup, for any faults you might want to throw at it, I think still functioned very well in black and white, where I never got confused or I never felt overwhelmed by the...
I didn't read the backup because I really didn't like the art. I glanced, like I got through like the first 2 pages of it and I was like, I really don't like it. Even though I get where you're coming from and that it's clearer to follow.
Yes.
I think that's fair to say. I just didn't like it.
That's fair. There's definitely some things that I didn't necessarily love about the faces or the chunky shoulder outfits or whatever. But like, I could follow it, and I actually felt relieved to read the backup after the main story, because I had such a hard time just kind of, some of the pages, like, it definitely, like, there's a page here with like Man-Bat in the foreground as they've got as Azrael on the hospital bed, and he's explaining to Deathstroke what's happened here, and that page is all right, and part of the reason why it's all right is because they've shaded in Man-Bat completely, so he's kind of grey, so there's a good separation between the characters, and it, so that's one of the better pages of the book, I thought, whereas some of the other ones where it just feels like a mess of lines at times, and obviously it isn't. The artist obviously put a lot of effort and time into it, but it just, I feel like when you're in black and white, you do have to have some, like, just simple shapes and blocks and things to sort of separate like more complicated parts of the scene.
It definitely just there's this pretty early on. Still, we're in the fight in the caves.
Uh-huh.
There's a scene where I think Azrael gets his face kicked. It's one panel in the bottom right of the page. So it's the page after Blue Devil gets stabbed. The bottom right panel. He's getting his face kicked in. There's a lot of like speed lines around the panel, and I had to think really hard to see that was a foot, like a boot, like the sole of a boot kicking him, because I couldn't see it through all the speed lines. Whereas if that was just colored, with the typical comic color, the separation of all the layers.
Yeah, it'd be obvious.
Probably would have been pretty clear. Yeah.
So it's just it kind of hindered my enjoyment a little bit because I like some of the ideas in here, which is Deathstroke is leading a team to the last known Lazarus pit because he wants to bring back Batman because the world needs Batman. And I was like, okay, the idea that Slade Wilson is the one who's like doing this really hopeful thing, like I need Batman, like Batman's
it's kind of in a weird, uniquely selfish angle as well, though. Like the world needs Batman because Batman's gonna be good at it, but it's not just that. It's like this council we got leading us. There's too much indecision. We need someone that everyone will respect to kind of make these decisions and just kind of make the calls. There
is a sense of logic to that as well that makes sense. Like I kind of get it. It's a bit cold-hearted, but I get it. So I really like that part of it because it's a really interesting beat to play with Slade. It's a bit, not different, but at the same time you can sort of see how it fits with his sense of the world, his worldview. The other part of it as well is that there's only one Lazarus pit left because the vampires have like destroyed the rest of them, which is an interesting concept. And then later on you find out part of the reason why is because the Lazarus pit actually cures the vampirism. Like it cures Azrael of being a vampire because he's a vampire when he shows up. And then he gets kicked out of the Lazarus pit and lo and behold, he's human again. So it's like, okay, that's why they don't like Lazarus pits, is they don't want people coming back.
Makes sense.
So it's like, okay, this is some interesting concepts.
And I like that they left one as bait.
Yeah.
That also makes sense.
Yeah. So those ideas are all neat. And then we're introduced to all these other characters that are hanging out in this space where Deathstroke and that are hanging out. Again, it's made up of some villains, some C-listers, Captain Atom's like making some solar energy to help grow some vegetation and give people some vitamin D.
Presumably keeps them a bit safer from vampires as well.
Yeah, you would assume. Booster Gold's looking all kind of future and like haggard. He's got a goatee, mohawk.
Yeah,
he's all tough looking.
I'm kind of digging the Booster look. I'm not gonna lie to
you. But yeah, so of course there's a big thing here where one of the characters, who was it? It was Damage, did turn into a vampire during the big fight and attacks the others, kills Vigilante, whilst the others are having a meeting, so chaos starts to reign, and we find out vampires have got like farms where they've just got, it's almost like the Matrix where they've just got people in like big pods. And that's the only place where they allow sunlight because it has to. They need sunlight to grow the humans, or the food for the humans specifically, I should say. So everything's going all, and then at the end, Damage goes up to try and kill Captain Atom, who's generating the sunlight. And
which I do think is actually a really strong page. That final, with everything going red, kind of behind them.
Yeah. It gives a sense of like impending doom because he's like, he's basically turned him into a giant nuclear reactor, and so things are about to go very, very bad. As the end of the issue, as Deathstroke's trying to debate with the others about what to do next. Yeah. So yeah, I had a hard time with this issue because I really did not enjoy the art, or at the very least I didn't. I had a hard time seeing the art, so I just kind of was annoyed a lot.
Yeah. I get that. Do you want to know what annoyed me though? And this is really petty, but do you know what really annoyed me the most? Is they screwed up the very first caption. Like everything in the book, is I could forgive a lot of things, but you can't mess up your very first thing in the book. So it opens and it's showing us, these are the characters we got. It has a little box explaining all of them. 2 out of the 3 follow the same thing: former X, current X. The first one does not follow that pattern. And then I thought, okay, that's weird. But then they return to this format when they introduce other characters throughout the book, also following the former, then current. How do you mess up the very first thing in your book? Like, it was baffling because I noticed it like immediately. I read the second one and I was like, okay, I like that format. And then the third one, I was like, oh, they stuck with that. And I was like, wait a second, they didn't do it on the first one. And then it bothered me every time they introduced a new character and it went to this format, and it just wasn't there. And it annoyed the hell out of me. Like, because it was the very first thing in the book that they got wrong. It's just sloppy.
Yeah. So the backup is just Gordon calls Batgirl with a bat signal, shows up, but it's a trap. Gordon's a vampire, and Batgirl fights all the SWAT team of vampires. There's a big fight scene, and that's basically it. That's the whole thing. But to his credit, like I said, the art is actually very easy to follow. I thought I got a lot of good motion. I'm not necessarily a fan of the style of the heads or these big chunky shoulder pads in the Batgirl suit or anything like that. So I wouldn't necessarily say I like the art per se, but I do think it flows well in the action and just in general compared to the main story. I can actually follow the art. And and for the record, I've read other black and white comics and I've enjoyed other black and white comics. It's not like a blanket problem. It's just this book feels like it wasn't drawn for black and white and is just really hard to follow without it, the extra detail from the colors to separate things and make things more obvious.
I stand by. I think they overuse the red because your eyes naturally are drawn to the red, and I think it's too because your eyes focus on that. You have to like unfocus to pay attention to the rest of the panel. I just think it's overdone. Yeah,
what's funny is the backup mostly only uses the red for the sound effects, and it's actually kind of works in a weird way because it's like.
Yeah, I think like sound effects, using it for like blood or something like that would work, especially in a vampire book.
Yeah,
and I do think it was effective using it on like that final page of the main story, kind of as that reversal of everything. But I do think that the main book, it's all like half of Deathstroke mask is rare. All of Azrael's cowl is rare. And it's like on most characters, there's like one big red chunk that tends to be what you're drawn to, and you kind of struggle to see past it sometimes.
Yeah, Matt did say something about this book. He said he's out on it, which probably means he feels similar to what I've been saying.
Probably, yeah.
I mean, I can't say for sure he's got the same problems, but I'll have a hunch and just assume. But yeah, I have to admit, I'm not particularly excited about reading more of this.
I don't know if I will. I might go back and read the back because it was Gordon's face and like. The Batgirl outfit that kind of put me off pretty immediately, but maybe if the motion of the rest of it is better, I'll go back and give it another try.
I mean, it is just a fight scene, but like, it took me so long to read the main story because I was like having to double check panels and like look for the art as effectively. Yeah. the backup just flew in so quickly by comparison.
It was pretty tough. Just because I like a lot of the premise of what it's doing. Just not necessarily how it's telling it with the art.
It clearly wants to be the unkillables of, to what that was to Deceased. This is what this mini kind of wants to be for vampires, and that's cool. It's admirable. I like that idea, but it was just too frustrating to read. And I mean, maybe like it'll be toned down, but there's a good chance that if it's the same artist throughout all the issues, it's just going to be the same.
Yeah, like I say, there's a possibility they didn't know when they were drawing issue 1, so they were drawing it differently. But I'd say maybe when the second issue comes up, just check the preview pages. If they're like this, you can probably guarantee that'll be it for the book. But
yeah.
If the preview pages are significantly clearer, then maybe I'll give it another. I'll come back and read the rest.
Yeah. Well, there you go. What were you giving All Out War issue 1?
Probably just a 5. I like a lot of its ideas. I like parts of the art, and I think it's trying some nice things, but it's kind of a frustrating read as well.
Yeah, I'll agree with the 5. I think that's kind of perfect for it. I don't want to shit on it too much, but like the art is a bit of a hindrance here. And again, it's not because the line work's bad. Like Like the line work, like the look of the designs and things, I think would be perfectly fine. Like I think I'd probably like the art if it was colored, but just as it
I'd
is.
love to see someone take these pages and color them. I'm sure, you know, obviously, you know, if you go on like Twitter, you'll see a lot of people doing things like that. Whether here's a page from whatever that I colored, you know, just for like practice. I'd love to see someone take a shot at some of these pages and
Sure.
have a look at those.